Hello, today we're going to discuss some music theory. We want to know which chords can we use. For that we need to know what chords we have on every scale that we choose. To know what chords we have on a scale, we first need to know what notes we have in the scale. Okay, so first let's talk about notes. What are notes? There are 12 notes. It's easiest to see them on a piano, so don't be frightened by this piano picture that we have here. I'm going to explain everything step by step and it's going to be super easy. So on the piano we have the white keys and the black keys. The black keys are always in groupings of 2 and then 3. This one, it looks like just a single note, but it's a part of the next 2. There's another black key after that. So it's always a grouping of 2 and then 3. To the left of each grouping of 2 black notes, this is the note C. So the note C is always to the left of the grouping of the 2 black keys. That's how we know where the C's are on the piano or organ or synthesizer, whatever. On the guitar we have a C on string 5 on fret 3. So now as we go right on the white keys of the piano, we play the notes in the ascending order of, we start from C and we go D, E, F, G. After G we go back from the beginning of the ABC to A. So it's going to be A, B, and then we're back to C. So you might ask yourself, what are these notes in between those white notes? So between those white notes, we have the sharps and flats. Sharp means that we took a note and we took it a little bit higher. So between C and D, there's a C sharp, a C that's a little bit higher. It's called a semi-step higher. Between C and D we have a whole step, and between C and C sharp we have a half step. Half step is the measure between 2 ascending notes. So between D and E we also have D sharp. Now you might notice that between E and F there isn't a black key. This means that between E and F we have a semitone and not a tone, like between C and D and E. Between F and G there's an F sharp, between G and A there's a G sharp, etc. And again between B and C there's a semitone. There's no black key in the middle. These black keys, they have another name. You can also, instead of using the name sharp, you can use the name flat. Flat means we took it a half step down. So between C and D, this was a C sharp, but you can also call it a D flat, meaning a D that we took a half step down. Same goes for E. There's no F flat, because if we take down F half step, we get to an E. So between F and G it's going to be a G sharp and so on, and again between C and B there's only a half step, so there's not a C flat on the piano keys. So this is the full chart of the names: C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and the flats and sharp. Both of the names of the black keys now appear on them. Let's go back here. On the guitar it's a little bit harder to see. We don't have white and black keys. It's not organized as nice as in the piano. We have the C on string 5 on the 3rd fret, and then if we go a full step we get to a D. Between them, on the 4th fret, it would be C sharp. It's also a bit harder on the guitar to see if we go a full step or a half step. That's why for this part of the theoretical aspect, that we just want to know which notes we have so we can know which chords we have, it's best to think about it on the piano, or just write yourself down the notes, just so you have the notes right in front of your eyes, so you can choose a scale and see what notes you have and what chords you have. So now we know what are notes, and we know all of them. We want to know which notes are on a certain scale. A scale is just basically a group of notes that together gives us some sort of sound. The most important one is the major scale, and we're going to talk about that. The major scale is something we have deep in our ears and we recognize it, and all the songs are basically using that scale. It is the da 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 da. So option 1 to know which notes we have in a scale is to remember this template right here. First note of the scale is called the root note. For example, if we want to know which notes are in C major scale, we start from C, the root note of the scale, and we apply this template. We go one step. Okay, from C to D is one step. A full step means we pass a note on the way, that note being C sharp or D flat. So one step, and then let's actually write down the notes that we get. So we start from C, we apply one step, we get to a D. Then another step, we get to E. Then a half step. Oh, look at that, from E to F we have a half step, so we get to F. Then full step, we get from F to G. Then another full step, we get from G to A. Then another full step, we get from A to B. And finally another half step, which gets us back to our root. So these are the notes we have on C major scale. Let's try to apply this template and see what the notes are for G major scale. So this time we apply the same template, but we start on the root, which is now G. So from G, we go a full step, we get to A. Another full step, okay, it's this one now. We get to B. Now a half step. From B, a half step would land us at C. Okay, from C, a full step. We get to D. Another full step. We get to E. And now another full step. A full step from E will get us to F sharp. Okay, from E, a half step would get us to F, and another half step that would give us a full step like the template asks us to, and we get to F sharp. And then another half step, and we get back to our root, to G. Okay, so the difference between C major scale and G major scale is just one note, the F sharp. The rest of the notes are exactly the same. Let's try the same on F major scale. So we start from F and we apply this template. We go full step, we get from F to G. Another full step will get us from G to A. Now a half step. A half step from A will get to B flat. We cannot call it A sharp, but we already have an A, so we use the name B. Now full step 3 times, so we get to, from B flat, a full step will get us to C. Okay, a half step to B and then another half step to C. Another full step to D, one more full step to E, and lastly a half step from E will get us back to F. So these are the notes we have on these major scales, on these 3 different major scales. This was option 1 of how to know which notes are on a scale. The second option is a little bit more complicated. Myself around a little bit. Option 2 is called the circle of fifths and fourths. Basically, it's just like a pre-prepared list of all the scales and what sharps and flats you have on them. The circle of fifths gives us the scales that have sharp signs in them, and the circle of fourths give us the scales that have flats in them. So in the circle of fifths, we go in a 5 interval, it's called also a quint. We go from C to G and then we get to D and A. I wrote it on two different columns because it's a little bit easier to memorize like that, because you go here in full steps on both of these columns. And each time you go in a fifth, you add a sharp sign to one of the notes, and that's how you get the notes of the scale. So in G, we have only F sharp, and the rest of the notes are without any sharps or flats. As you can see here in G major, it is true. When we apply the template of option 1, we get the same results, only F sharp. The name of the new sharp will always be the note before the root. So now that we go to D major scale, the new root would be C. On the flat side, if we go by fourths, we have to from C to F, from F to B flat, from B flat to E flat. Again, I wrote it in 2 columns because it's a little bit easier to memorize. And here the notes are going in a descending order of the full step each time. And the name of the sharp that we have is the next 4 that we will go to. So in the scale of F, that's supposed to be flat. In the key of F, the new flat is the name of the next scale that we would go to in the circle of fourths. We know whenever we choose a major scale, we know which notes we have on it. But how do we know which chords we have on it? So to know which chords we have, we need to apply this template. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So I took just the notes that we have on each of these scales. And now let's apply this template. Major. For major, you don't write major, like it's just the basic default of it is that when you see a C, it's a C major chord. And then we have a minor, minor, major, major, minor, and diminished. Is sometimes marked as an empty circle like that. In G major, the same. So it's going to be major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Okay, so these are the chords we have in G major. G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F diminished. Okay, same goes for F major. Just apply the template. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Now, if you want to use some more interesting chords, you can add another note to the chord, and then it will be a 7 chord, also called a septachord, because it's now a chord that has 4 notes in it. So it's just a little bit different, but mostly almost the same. All the minors just get a minor 7. Okay, minor, minor. This one's also should be a minor. Oh, sorry. I'm missing a minor here. Okay. The diminished is now called half diminished because it has a 7 in it. It's a minor 7 flat 5. The major, first 2 of them are major 7, and the 5th chord will be just a 7, regular 7 chord. So for example, on the C major scale, we now have a C major 7, C major 7, and a D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, F major 7, G7, A minor 7, and B minor 7 flat 5. On G major scale, we know the notes are G, A, B, C, E, F sharp. Now we apply the name of the chords that we get, so it'd be G major 7, minor 7, B minor 7, now C major 7, oh sorry, of course D7, I forgot the D, E minor 7, and F sharp minor 7 flat 5. And lastly, in the F scale, in the scale of F major, we have F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E. And we apply the chord template, F major 7, G minor 7, A minor 7, B flat major 7, C7, D minor 7, and E minor 7 flat 5. So these are the chords that we have on each of those scales, and from that you can choose chords to jam on with your friends. You know that these chords will fit those scales. Write your own songs, or of course if you want to analyze your favorite song, you can check out these chords and see on which scale it is, and maybe move it to other scales and see which chords he chose, the first one, the second one, the third, the fourth, and so on. A lot of the times you'll see that songs go from the first chord in the scale to the fifth, then to the sixth chord, and then to the 4. 1, 5, 6, 4. It's also called the 4-chord song. You can search about that. That's all for today. So now you know which notes are on any major scale and what chords go along with that scale. Here's an exercise for you. Which chords are on E flat scale and which chords are on D major scale? Write them in the comments and I'll tell you if you're right.